His visor flashed as his vision zoomed in on the growth on the creature's back. A weak point, perhaps? No. He could see people in there. It looked like a parasite's wart, but it was hardened bone. Civilians flailed and moaned, reaching weakly to the outside world for help. Aiming further down the creature's body, Laserwolf's cannons ignited. A spray of energy blasts rained all around the creature's back and legs. It screeched, rearing up to glare at him. Flying in a wide arc so it couldn't grab him this time, he sprayed the monster with peppering blasts. It seized a car in its teeth and flung it upward. It crashed into Laserwolf with a crunch of metal, knocking him from the sky. Ripping the vehicle in half and tossing the pieces angrily, he landed hard in a three-point stance. With a metallic roar, he thrust his arms out as his hand cannons deployed. 2 from the shoulders, 2 from his hands. The blast was enough to knock the beast from the beams of the bridge down to street level. Cars and other vehicles crunched under its weight. It landed with a roar, and its countless legs flailed wildly. Crawling over burning cars and ignoring the screaming people that were running in terror, the burdened screamed at Laserwolf while its mouth opened in half a dozen different directions. Laserwolf tore a car door free and frisbeed it into the beast's face, charging into close combat. The scrap of metal clanked off the snake-like head, making it roar and charge against him. The creature and the robot dog clashed against each other. Laserwolf was holding its front fangs as it tried to snap him up with all the others, hydraulics in his arms screaming in effort. Laserwolf's entire metallic frame was shuddering and groaning. His heels shrieked sparks in all directions before he shifted his weight and slammed its head into a burning semi-truck's grill. Shaking itself with a snarl, it battering rammed its head into the robot dog, sending him flying into a pileup of cars. They instantly burst into flame, shrouding him in black smoke. The bird reared up to roar again. Suddenly, bullets sprayed across the monster's front and chest. The local police and National Guard had arrived. Laserwolf's message had sent them scrambling, and a news helicopter had shown them a target. Automatic rifles, pistols, and tear gas flew in a mighty wave. "Take it to 'em!" A commanding officer roared, riot shield in one hand and a gigantic, long-nosed pistol in the other. The burden rounded on them as spurts of green goo and flakes of carapace rained around its front. Seizing a semi-trailer in its many legs, it rolled the massive thing down the bridge like a bowling ball. Shrapnel and hot metal went in all directions as police cars and National Guard trucks were crushed. Brave men and women with assault rifles and other weapons charged the beasts, shouting like an army as they went. Bullets sang through the air, and the burden snapped one of them up, swallowing her whole. She joined the suffering ones in the cage, lethargic and adding to the beast's power. Oh, a divorcee. 3 times, no less. A lot of suffering there. A few bullet holes sealed themselves instantly. A man with a riot shield and a flashbang grenade was next, then a trio with assault rifles. Nothing seemed to stop the beast. Laserwolf suddenly burst from the debris with a mighty roar, raising his arms high. Stomping out the fire and the flames with all his might, he joined the attacking line of police officers and National Guard. "It's Laserwolf!" someone shouted. "Get behind him! Laserwolf is here!" Everyone scrambled to form up behind the massive metal superhero. "Everyone together!" Laserwolf announced over the roar of battle. His shoulder and arm cannons ignited. Everyone present unloaded everything they had. Flashing weapons and lasers filled the night air as cars and debris exploded around the beast. It fell into the flames with a screech, roaring as metal and shrapnel went in all directions. Black smoke billowed out like a shockwave as ash and gravel filled the air. Laserwolf's cannons smoked, hot and glowing. "Did we get it?" Someone shouted over the din. Laserwolf's visor was scanning, but there was too much interference. Smoke, debris, fire, chemicals. It was scrambling his sensors. Heat vision. No good. Infrared didn't help. Motion detection? No. Switching back to normal vision, Laserwolf stayed tensed in case the creature should rise again. "I think we got it!" someone shouted victoriously. Just then, of all things, a yellow city cab pulled up next to the scene. "I am so sorry I didn't pay you last time. I just got excited." Shield Maiden stepped out and then broke the handle off the door. Shit. She threw it into the passenger's side back. She gave the cabbie a crisp $100 bill. "This makes us square, don't worry." He eagerly took the money and put it under his hat. "Tell him Tim Kearney is reliable enough to bring superheroes to the front line, yeah?" "Of course." Shield Maiden smiled a little embarrassedly. She wished for the 1,000th time that she could fly. She felt so lame showing up to battle in a cab. She was a superhero. While they were talking, Anubis unfolded himself with a lot of effort out of the car. Being almost 10 feet tall did not make cars very easy for him. His massive foot caught on something and he fell out, splatting face first onto the pavement. "Oh," he said angrily. "Anubis hates cars. Yes." He stood quickly, shaking his head so his ears flopped about. "Is that a meta creature?" one of the cops said. Anubis snarled at her, lifting his jowls to expose his crisscrossing teeth. A few of the police backed up a step or two, wary. Some guns started pointing in his direction. "Yes, he's a meta creature. He's with me. Everybody calm down. He's with me. He's here to help," Shield Maiden said quickly, walking forward to approach Laserwolf. "What's happened?" Laserwolf gestured and then briefly filled her in. Anubis came to join them, eyes glittering in the darkness. Police spotlights pointed into the wreckage, looking for movement. "The police don't like Anubis because he is black," the Jackal Man had decided. He folded his arms with a scowl. "You know what that's like, right?" Shield Maiden looked up at his snow-white visage and then snickered loudly. "What?" he demanded. "Nothing. Nothing," Shield Maiden said. "The creature has been immobilized. I do not believe it is dead," Laserwolf said. "It feigns death," Anubis said with a frown, reaching into his hip bag that he'd recovered with Shield Maiden's help. Pawing back and forth, he found a lock of Shield Maiden's hair in a tiny jar. He'd snipped it when she'd been bleeding out in front of him. "A dying woman's hair. Yah!" He smashed the jar on the ground at his feet, barking a string of magic words. The hair burst into ash, and a cloud of black crows screeched onto the scene. "Show them it's just pretending. Yes." Anubis's eyes glowed with an inner light of magic for a moment. A halo of runes appeared around his wrists, and he gave a broad gesture. The murder of crows screamed in a wild cacophony, darting this way and that before the entire crowd of them darted into the smoke and fire. Black feathers went in all directions while they pecked and tore and screeched and scratched at the burdened. Instantly, all of its hairy insectoid legs began to flail and kick. It hauled itself upright with a screech. It had been feigning death. Shield Maiden blurted a swear word when she saw the cage of prisoners on its bulbous back. "Bullets and lasers are not effective," Laserwolf said loudly. "Retreat!" He commanded the line of police officers and National Guard. They didn't need to be told twice. Leaving their cars and jeeps behind as a barricade, the bridge was soon empty save for the creature, the two superheroes, and Anubis. "It is Anubis's job to contain the beast." He stepped forward with a serious frown. "Protect him while he recites the incantation. Yes." He raised his arms, twin rings of arcane runes appearing around his wrists. He looked almost angelic with that white fur and golden magic. Hadn't it been orange before? His ears perked up and forward, his eyes slowly widening themselves out to glow with pure magic. "You got it, Anubis." Shield Maiden dashed forward. "Wait, it is too strong for you." Laserwolf reached out, but she had already motored past him. Charging into the fray with a long shout of battle, Shield Maiden pulled her shield free and leaped into a Lutz jump. She sailed over the monster's head in an impossible, spectacular leap that sent her tumbling ass over tea kettle that even Anubis hadn't seen her do before. The beast snapped and thrashed at her, wheeling around with all of its countless legs. Shield Maiden landed on a smashed semi-truck, spun about, and crashed her shield into the monster's face. The recoil from the blows turned the monster's entire body sideways, flung its head into the metal beams of the bridge, and shattered half of the carapace off of its face. It screeched long and loud before lancing at her with all its speed. Shield Maiden seized it by the snout and dug her heels in. The semi collapsed beneath her like a house of cards, but her arms held firm. Gritting her teeth, she wrenched the entire thing to one side, slamming it into the metal support beams again. Then a second time, then a third. The monster flailed and squealed, unable to pull free from her might. Laser Wolf stared at the battle, his visor flicker-flashing rapidly. "Impossible," he said without tone or emotion. "Her strength has increased over 5,000% beyond revised estimates. Updating databanks." The white metal hero turned towards Anubis, who was reciting a long string of arcane words. Rings and golden symbols were dancing in the air around him. Suddenly seeming to hear the magic words, the burden wrenched itself free of Shield Maiden's grip to look at Anubis. Its pupils shrank and it roared, mouth splitting open like an apocalyptic flower. Shield Maiden went for another grab, but no beast would be caught in the same way twice. It skittered around her, then used its head to launch a car into her face. The crunch of metal bent around her entire body, driving her back to the edge of the bridge. The burden turned, slapping the car again with the end of its tail. Shield Maiden was flung off the bridge and into the open air, debris raining all around her. Anubis stood where he was, still reciting loudly as the magics grew and pulsated in the air around him. Laser Wolf hesitated, looking between Anubis, the burdened, and Shield Maiden. A fall of that height would surely kill her. Water was no different from concrete at that height. Thinking quickly, Laser Wolf armed his needle laser. Jetpack igniting, he launched himself skyward. The tiny laser slashed through the beast and removed its head for the second time. The streets split open and the bridge moaned, but the structure held. Click-pop, he jettisoned the tiny used canister. The burden squealed, flopping to the ground as its head rolled away for the second time. Laser Wolf blasted off, over the edge of the bridge and below. He cleared the lip of the bridge just in time to see Shield Maiden hit the water. The rockets on his back grew hotter, and he hit the water's surface like a missile. The splash was like an explosion. The water was dark. Metallic debris was raining everywhere around him. Laser Wolf's visor lights turned on. He scanned quickly. There she was. Shield Maiden had been knocked unconscious by the impact. He wondered how many bones she'd broken and how many organs had been ruptured as he grabbed her roughly in both arms. Pointing himself skyward, he rocketed back to the open air. Arcing away from the fight, he landed on the shoreline in a small decorative park with a clank of metal and a squeal of hydraulics. She was limp. "Wanda Summers," he said urgently. She didn't stir. "Wanda Summers," he said again. His blue light scanned her one way and then the other. No broken bones. Blunt force trauma? Her lungs were no doubt full of water. Laser Wolf's head turned all the way backwards, and he checked on the burdened. It was not moving. Not yet. It took time to recover. Zooming in with his telescopic vision, he could see Anubis was still performing his incantation. No doubt a new head would grow soon. He didn't have much time. "This is Laser Wolf to all police and National Guard personnel." He instantly hacked into the channel of the police scanner built into him. "What is it, Laser Wolf?" someone shouted over the line. "Resume your assault with gunfire and flash grenades," Laser Wolf commanded. "Yes, sir." You heard the robot! Move in! Move, move, move! Gunfire accompanied the man shouting, and Laserwolf cut out of the channel to silence again. Laserwolf saw the brave men and women in uniform go charging in over the debris, smoking shards of metal and ash. Good. Pawns could be sacrificed if it meant reviving a knight. That was how the chessboard of this battle would go. His head rotated forward again, back to Shield Maiden. She wasn't moving, and her chest wasn't rising to breathe either. She'd hit the water too hard. It must have knocked her senseless. Finally deciding that it couldn't be helped, the unthinkable happened. Laserwolf stepped back 3 paces and knelt all the way down. His chest plate hissed and swung open, unsealing the cockpit inside. A roll cage like that of a race car folded itself up. Paneling shifted to one side. The giant robot's insides were covered with monitors, switchboards, and a wild array of gadgets. Clink, clink. Restraints were being undone and tossed aside. Shield Maiden needed CPR. Laserwolf's pilot jumped free, landing on all fours and rushing to the woman's side. Quickly turning her onto her back, she listened at her chest. No pulse. Putting one hand over the other, she pumped 10 times. Then she held her nose and put her lips to Shield Maiden's. Pumped 10 times again. Sweaty and exhausted, she repeated a 3rd time. In the distance, she heard a wild array of gunfire. The burden had revived. She pushed air into Shield Maiden's lungs again. Shield Maiden suddenly spluttered up water, coughing and hacking, turning to one side to empty her lungs. Laserwolf's pilot held her firmly so she didn't suffocate herself in the grass. Her vision was swimming. She shook her head. Finally rolling onto all fours, Shield Maiden looked up at her savior. It was Eiko. What? Shield Maiden gaped at her. Eiko was in a skin-tight gray body stocking covered with yellow circuitry. She was wearing a headset that wrapped around the back of her head. I don't. What? Get up, Shield Maiden, Eiko spoke, but the growly voice broadcast from Laserwolf's mouth. Shield Maiden's heart pounded. But you're... We will talk later, Laserwolf snarled from several yards away as Eiko's lips moved in front of the microphone. The monster is reviving again. Turning quickly, Eiko dashed back to the pilot seat of her robot and slammed her feet into the pedals. The jetpack on Laserwolf's back ignited. His chest slammed closed and sealed itself again, and Laserwolf seized Shield Maiden's arm. Do not fall off the bridge again. He rocketed skyward and back to the battle with her in tow. The police and National Guard were spraying the burden with bullets, but it seemed to wade through them as it pleased, scarfing down victims as it went. Laserwolf landed hard, shaking the bridge's foundations. The creature turned and screamed at the two of them. Where's Anubis? Shield Maiden shouted over the fray. Anubis hadn't moved from where he'd begun his incantation. It had been over a minute. The ground around his feet was cracking and boiling. Sparks of magic and light were gathering into his body as he chanted. The burden was making its way rapidly towards him despite the hailstorm of gunfire. Laserwolf's shoulder cannons ignited and he blasted the beast again. It shrieked and rounded about. Throw me, Shield Maiden demanded, grabbing Laserwolf's arm. He grabbed her around the middle and launched her at the beast. She made a fist, wheeling back with all her might. A ring of dust rushed away when the connecting blow hit the monster's face. The burden rolled bodily away, crushing cars, exploding gas tanks, and striking the guardrails of the bridge. It's done, Anubis suddenly announced. Lassos of molten light sprang from Anubis's chest, throwing themselves around the monster. It struggled and screamed, but more and more emerged, wrapping the thing up like a pig at a rodeo. Anubis's magic hauled it across the blacktop, struggling and screaming. The bulbous cage on its back burst, spilling dozens of people out onto the street until it reached him. Shrinking, It thrust itself into his ribs like a parasitic worm. Anubis recoiled, screaming in pain and effort as he did so. His fur stained itself black, and he staggered a little. He finally fell on his butt, and then slowly lay on his back, dizzy. "Hey, are you okay?" A police officer rushed up to him. "Imagine the most spectacular shit you've ever taken, flying right back up your ass. No, Anubis is not okay!" he roared, turning to one side so he could cough some black gunk. "No, not okay. No." He repeated a few times, shivering. The officer touched his shoulder to steady him. "Anubis, did you get it? Is it sealed up again?" Shield Maiden quickly knelt by his side. "Anubis's burden remains his burden. Yes, the beast is back in its cage. Yes." Then he passed out, curling up into the fetal position. "Watch him for me," Shield Maiden begged the police officer before wheeling around to run into the crowd of people laying strewn about. The police and National Guard members were checking each person in turn. Everyone seemed to be alive. She searched until she found a smaller figure draped in a cloak and hood. "Oh, thank God," she said, kneeling to pick her up. The benefactor's veil fell away to reveal spider-like mandibles where her lips should have been. Shield Maiden quickly fixed it as she heard Laserwolf approaching. "I found her." She turned to look up at him. Her. Aiko. Shield Maiden's face fell. "What should we do now?" she asked slowly. Laserwolf was silent for a long time, seemingly considering. "Police and National Guard must see these civilians to safety. You should do the same with your benefactor. Anubis is mine." "Let's not start that argument again. You're not taking him to jail, Aiko." Shield Maiden felt the rush of power, knowing a superhero's secret identity. Laserwolf jolted to a halt. "I know your secret now, and I don't like that you stoop to blackmail to get your way. Bring Anubis back with me to my benefactor's home, or I'll tell everyone who you are." Laserwolf didn't move, and Shield Maiden scowled at him. "Doesn't feel very good, does it? Hearing a threat like that from someone that's supposed to be on your side? Now we're on even footing, Laserwolf." Laserwolf seemed to consider for a time. They both knew each other's secret identities now. Mutually assured destruction. But she looked resolute. "Very well, Shield Maiden," he gravely agreed. Turning about, he collected the unconscious Anubis, and Shield Maiden led them away from the scene. The police and National Guard were already bringing in stretchers. Shield Maiden, Anubis, Laserwolf, and the Benefactor finally all arrived back at the mysterious halls where they'd been before. "Will civilians not come into this place now?" Laserwolf wanted to know. "There are many dangerous objects and chemicals here." "It's covered with look-away spells," Shield Maiden said vaguely. "Their eyes will just slide from one building to the next. You see it because you're with us." She nodded to the sleeping gypsy woman in her arms. Shield Maiden went to deposit her into her sleeping chambers, resting her head on the mountain of burgundy pillows. "Thanks for escorting us, but this is where we part ways, I think." "Agreed." Laserwolf turned to leave. "We're going to have a talk about this, Aiko. A long, long talk," Wanda said to his back. Laserwolf paused in the archway of the gigantic hole. The secret spiders were already crawling all over it, back and forth, putting bricks in place and spitting to make new mortar. "I know," Laserwolf said. "Soon." "Tell Jasmine I'm staying with a friend tonight. I have to take care of her." Shield Maiden put a thumb over her shoulder. Laserwolf did not answer, but his jetpack ignited and he took off into the night sky. Wanda sighed, long and loud, peeling off her banner mask and setting her shield aside. She glanced at the clock. Almost midnight. Groaning and rubbing her eyes, she slowly slumped onto the couch to think. Aiko was Laser Wolf. It made sense, really. Calm, clinical, rich enough to fund something insane like a 12-foot-tall robot dog. She shuddered a little. Aiko had blackmailed her to get to Anubis. Anubis! She relaxed when she saw him sprawled on the couch where Laser Wolf had left him. His mouth was open and his long pink tongue was hanging out. She watched his ears turn this way and that while he dreamed. Wanda sighed in relief, flopping down again. She wiped her brow. I need a drink, she decided, throwing herself onto her feet. She stared at the fridge that she'd torn apart when she reached the kitchen. Gently, gently. She tried to get the jug of ice water, and it shattered in her grip. Damn it! She watched the water go all over the floor. Getting a wooden spoon from a peg on the wall, she oh so gently nudged the tap of the kitchen sink. Thrusting her head under it, she drank greedily. When she put the spoon down, it was badly cracked. She's gonna kill me, Wanda murmured to herself. The night passed. Wanda awoke to firm hands holding her chin and cheek. Who's that? She said blearily. Sakes alive, child, what have you done to yourself? It was the gypsy woman, awake and on her feet. You're up! Wanda sat up quickly and promptly flipped the coffee table to smash against the wall. Sorry, she yelped. Hands under your arms, the woman said angrily, pointing at her. There's a reason you only take that potion for healing and emergencies, you know. She peeled off her long opera gloves and grabbed Wanda's face without warning or ceremony. Her large eyes widened and her pupils dilated. Fighting the beast in Anubis's cell, being eaten, Anubis passing her far too much of the potion, the battle on the bridge, Laser Wolf's true identity, Anubis's recapture of the burdened. She let go, leaving Wanda gasping for air. That does complicate things a bit, doesn't it? She wondered. You said you wouldn't do that anymore, Wanda said, on her knees from the strain of the post-cognitive reading. And you said you would never take any of that elixir without my express permission, but here we are, she snapped angrily. Now you're too powerful for your own good. 1 or 2 drops would have been enough, but you took 5 or 6 swallows. Not another word. You are staying here. You are going to do as I say and drink what I give you. Until you pee out whatever your body hasn't absorbed yet, you are a danger to yourself and everyone around you. Is that clear? She shouted, prodding Wanda in the chest. Hands still in her armpits, Wanda wilted and looked at the floor. Yes, ma'am, she said softly. Panting from anger, the gypsy woman looked around. And just look at this mess! This is what I get for helping out questionable people, and this is what I get for listening to you. She looked at the destroyed kitchen, the knocked-down columns, the shattered walls, and the laser burns up and down the wall. Wanda looked hurt. Now Laser Wolf knows about me. Your powers are misbalanced, and God only knows how many millions of dollars of damage done to the city, all because you couldn't leave well enough alone. I'm sorry, Wanda said, her eyes starting to mist up a little. I was just trying to help. Twin tears went down her cheeks. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. She mewed a little, slowly sinking to sit on her legs. It's all my fault. The benefactor blinked at her when Wanda started to earnestly cry. The stress had finally gotten to her, bringing Anubis in, having her peel off his magic, releasing the burdened, finding out about Laser Wolf, exposing her benefactor's home to an outsider. It really was all her fault. Finally, the benefactor seemed to catch herself. She held the bridge of her nose. Sighing long and loud, she looked down at Wanda, who was holding her face in both hands. Well, it's partially my fault. When I heard Anubis practice a magic I was not privy to, I got too excited. She slowly reached and palmed the top of Wanda's head. She felt the woman flinch a little and heard her sniffle into her hands. There was a long silence. Come now, she sighed aloud. You made a big mess, but I helped you do it. Now let's try and fix you, you foolish girl. It took some coaxing to get Wanda off the floor and towards the alchemy lab. By some miracle, it was one of the rooms that hadn't been damaged during the whole fiasco. Wanda sat where she was told, and the benefactor set to work. While the superheroes sniffled and the gypsy woman measured unknown substances, Anubis stirred. He turned over, falling off the couch and hitting the marble floor with a bump. Oh, Anubis hasn't had a hangover this bad since Cairo. No. His ears were down and back as he held his head. He looked around blearily, then shook his head to make his ears flop about. Where is Anubis? He eyed the smashed kitchen, the broken columns, and the debris everywhere. His memory slowly came back to him. Oh yes, all done with that. Time to move on. Yes, he decided, heading towards the hallway. He passed the alchemy lab and stopped in the archway. Anubis rises. Yes, he announced himself. Anubis. Wanda stood, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. Her benefactor gave a harsh gesture, and she quickly sat down again. You're free to go if you want, young man, the benefactor said, not looking up from whatever sparkling concoction she had on a hot plate. Clearly you should not be contained or helped by the powers that I wield. You should not have tampered with Anubis. No. He folded his arms at her gravely. Shame upon your family and 6 generations for releasing the burden from its prison inside Anubis. Yes. Apologies, she said shortly, grabbing an orange powder and a measuring spoon. But you're back to normal, yes? Normal as Anubis can be. He scowled at her. Well, there's the door. Off with you, the gypsy woman said. You're just letting him go? Wanda wondered. He's a living cage for a monster that can't be killed. He probably shouldn't stay in one spot for long, she said. Anubis's death magic keeps the burdened in check. That is why he stays like this. Yes, Anubis told Wanda. It is not something he talks about. Anubis is complicated, remember? I told you on the train. Yes. Well, stay or go, but don't touch anything in here, the benefactor said offhandedly. I'm going to be moving my home this afternoon so Laser Wolf won't find it again. So if you're staying, you had best stay until I've done that. Moving buildings isn't easy, you know. She wasn't looking at him, but carefully dripping something red into her bubbling mixture. Anubis can stay? His ears went up and forward. Wanda blinked in shock. You're free to roam. I won't stop you, the woman shrugged. But you might stand a better chance of not being found if you stay in a magic house covered with look-away spells that can be moved with a few hours' notice. Who said Anubis was being pursued? Anubis said suspiciously, his ears turning back. I read your mind. I'm post-cognitive. She lifted a gloved hand and wiggled her fingers at him a little. A look of pity crossed Anubis's features. Post-cognitive. You see the past when you touch things, not the most pleasant of gifts. No, he decided, looking at her in a different way. Was that concern etched on his face? Wanda had never seen him make that expression before. Perhaps he was seeing a kindred spirit. Yes, well, the gloves help, she said softly, trying not to look distracted. Wanda looked back and forth between them as they spoke. She felt smaller and smaller as their conversation went on, like a child sitting at a dinner table between adults. Two powerful magic users like them under the same roof would be interesting, to say the least. There was a bit of silence as Anubis fidgeted. Anubis has slept in mausoleums, park benches, dumpsters, and such. Yes. This cannot be any worse, Anubis supposes, he said, looking around. That explains the smell, she said without looking up. Ouch! Wanda complained when the benefactor pulled a few hairs from the top of her head and threw that into the elixir as well. Fine, Anubis will stay. For now. Yes. He folded his arms and looked around a little. Anubis will go pick out his room. Yes. He turned and his foot claws clicked down the hallway. When he was gone, Wanda looked at the gypsy woman incredulously. Are you crazy? She whispered. You're not the first child to bring home a stray and then have the adults of the household care for it, she said easily. Wanda had the decency to blush. Better here than out there. Laser Wolf wants him in jail, and whoever chases him all over the world will never find him here. Why do they want him? Who are they? It doesn't matter. Any men who would want to unchain a beast like that on purpose cannot be reasoned with, the woman said, pouring her concoction into a small glass container. It hissed and burbled, turning a fluorescent pink. The ones that sealed that monster inside him were monsters themselves, taking the poor child's life from him to suit their own ends. But if another faction is hunting him to weaponize the burden for their own ends, better he be hidden and under protection than sleeping in graveyards by himself. I understand, Wanda said slowly. Will you be okay with him here, alone? She asked, concerned. You say that like you're not coming to live with me shortly, she said, turning about to get a few powders off the shelf behind her. Or are you going to tell me you have no problem living under the same roof with someone like Echo the Laser Wolf? Wanda startled a little, then looked down at the floor. When I move the house, I will shift the walls. You can have a small room here while you seek out better lodging. 2 weeks, no more. I'm not running a dormitory here. Thank you, Wanda said softly, staring at her lap. Why do I feel like such a child right now? She murmured. Because you are one, and you've made some big mistakes, but you're growing fast. She stopped to stir with a glass rod. You've entered the stage where much larger powers are starting to take notice of you. The gypsy woman held the long tube up to the light, checking the color. Laser Wolf? Laser Wolf and others, she nodded, coming around the table with the steaming elixir. He has already noticed that you grow measurably stronger over time. Or should I say, she. I'm sorry I exposed you, Wanda mumbled to her lap. There is nothing that can be done. Now drink up. She poured the vial out into a wide mug and then pushed it into Wanda's hands. Wanda held it and it shattered instantly, splashing the stuff everywhere. The benefactor swore and jumped back so it wouldn't get all over her. The two women stared at the mess of shards and potion all over the floor. Wanda looked like a dog that had shit on the carpet and hung her head. The gypsy woman sighed long and loud. In hindsight, I should have set that on the counter and given you a straw. Wanda stifled a tiny giggle. I'll make another, don't move, she grumbled. Sorry, Wanda mumbled again. This is why we go 1 or 2 drops at a time, she said, busily gathering ingredients again. You grow more powerful, very slowly, so you get used to your newfound strength. That has been my plan all along. Having it all at once makes you a clumsy child that can't control herself. Yes, ma'am, Wanda said, nodding her understanding. Any dreams of gulping down the entire power potion had disappeared hours ago.